And there we go.
Wow, that took a hot minute. Hello, everybody. We are the Jocks of All Trades podcast. I am Brad, joined by Luke. If you can't tell by our attire, it is a special week, a special day for college football. It is rivalry week. The two of us are insanely invested in our games. But you know what? These all have some playoff implications, and we wanted to bring you a brief episode on where that all is heading. What would you say are the three big games this week that will kind of give us implications into the playoffs? And then let's break those down.
Absolutely. No bias here, but I'm thinking the biggest game of the day is the game, Ohio State, Michigan, being played in Ann Arbor, and it's already kind of looking like a snow globe in the big house. That is a 2 versus 5 matchup. The first time it has been a top 5 matchup of the two teams since 2016. And Michigan fans remember that as the big controversy. They continue this day saying that JT was short. I'm not going to say one way or the other, but this game is huge. Basically, what will happen here is the winner of this game probably remains the 2 seed or jumps to the 2 seed if Michigan pulls off the upset. And then we'll go to Indianapolis to play potentially Wisconsin in the Big Ten championship game. I think the second biggest game today is actually Bedlam, purely based on the playoff implications. There is still an outside chance, barring chaos, that a 12-1 Big 12 champion makes it to the playoff. And that could either be, most likely, it could be right now who's number 7, Oklahoma State, under Mike Gundy, the Cowboys, or it could be a team that we've ragged on kind of all season long, the Oklahoma Sooners, who are right now number 10, if they can pull off beating Oklahoma State twice in a row. Because if they beat them today in Bedlam, they would have to play them again in the Big 12 championship next week. And then the third game, it's always big. It's one of the granddaddies of college football rivalries, the Iron Bowl. You can never discount it. Chaos always seems to happen in that game. But to say that Auburn is down bad, looking at not having Bo Nix and looking at being unranked, facing one of the top 3 teams in the country right now, it doesn't get any worse than this. And you would probably know, is this game being played in Tuscaloosa or at Auburn?
Unfortunately, it's at Auburn,
okay.
which stands to be a little difficult to go on the road and play them because regardless of what their record is, and I'm not sure I could say the same about Michigan, but regardless of what the record is, they give us their toughest game every year.
Yes, as Nick Saban said in a press conference earlier, you always get everyone's toughest game. Ohio State is on the receiving end of that. Alabama is certainly on the receiving end of that. So this game has a few fewer implications because everyone's kind of expecting Alabama to walk away with this one. However, should the War Eagle fly today, that would effectively eliminate the Crimson Tide from playoff contention.
I'm not sure, and here's why. There's only one way that they take a second L and still make it in, and that's if we lose to Auburn and we beat Georgia. It'd be really hard to take away from the Tide to say you beat the number 1 the team in the country, and keep them out. That would be the best win out of all 4 teams that would be there.
It would. However, let it be known that a 2-loss team has never cracked the top 4 on Selection Sunday.
Yes. However, here's the thing you're going to hate. They always break their own rules every year. So, and truthfully, I've heard a lot of analysts talk about it, and I'll talk about it for a hot second, not just to be biased about my own team, but would you rather take an 11-2 Alabama that plays Power 5 conference teams all season, or an undefeated Cincinnati that has played literally one team, and even that team is kind of the joke of the college football world.
Well, they're ranked number 6 right now, but they've never shown up well in semifinal games.
And they've never played anybody. They are the Clemson of non-conference like teams.
Yeah.
They really are.
Very agreed. Very much agreed.
So I don't put any stock in Notre Dame. Sorry, Notre Dame fans. I really don't, because even when you do get there, you fall apart every single season. And why? Because you should never be there in the first place. Join a conference. Beat Power 5 opponents that are ranked.
You already have a good relationship with the ACC, and you would
That's
almost
what I've said.
a conference if you would join. You would only really have to worry about, kind of Clemson a little bit, but they've kind of fallen off now. I mean, if you were in the ACC this year, you'd be a shoo-in for the playoff, basically.
Yeah. And that's their biggest fault. Like, I'm sorry, their rivalry game is against Stanford today, but what has Stanford done? I mean, if I remember correctly, they did beat Oregon, didn't they?
Stanford did beat Oregon, yes.
But outside of that, like, their games aren't, like, great. So I don't put much stock into that. But honestly, yeah, looking at everything else, I don't see anything that would hinge upon keeping somebody out of the playoffs.
Yeah, no, when you look at playoff teams, you have Georgia and Alabama, who are both in the top 4 right now. They're guaranteed to play each other next week, regardless of the outcome of the Iron Bowl. You have Ohio State basically in a playoff game today with Michigan. Cincinnati won their game already yesterday against Eastern Carolina. And then you have the Eastern Carolina. And then you have the Big 12 in basically almost a playoff game today. And then you have next week, depending on what happens next week in the Big 12 championship game. Mm-hmm. However, you were just talking about Notre Dame. There is still a path for Notre Dame to make the playoffs this year. Hear me out.
I'd love it. I love an easy win.
Well, no, the thing is, you wouldn't get an easy win because Alabama wouldn't be part of the picture here.
Oh.
You have Georgia beating Alabama, thus eliminating them from the competition. Right. Ohio State or Michigan wins the Big Ten championship. They're a 12-1 Big Ten champion. They are in. Cincinnati goes undefeated. They are in. And the winner of Bedlam today loses the Big 12 championship next week. So the Big 12 would be effectively eliminated from contention. And then it would actually come down to a debate inside the committee of who would you rather take? An 11-2 non-conference champion Alabama, who has shown some good offensive prowess, but is inconsistent defensively, or an 11-1 Notre Dame, whose only loss would be to potentially the number 3 team in the country.
I understand the logic, but I hate that teams are getting passes for not playing opponents. When did strength of schedule become so unimportant?
No, and that's where basically, I mean, if you were watching ESPN's Game Day today, Lee Corso was making almost that exact same point, going to the point of basically calling Group of 5 minor league football.
Yeah.
So those are some strong words coming from Lee Corso. Yeah. But you have to agree that his point at least has some validity.
So it does. Let's break down some of these games. Let's talk about Bedlam first, because neither one of us have a dog in that fight. Number 7 team versus the number 10 team. They both have only lost one game. Caleb Williams does look pretty good.
Certainly better than Spencer Rattler earlier this season.
Yeah, I was going to say, speaking of Spencer Sanders doesn't look terrible. Not like a powerhouse, but they've found ways to win. Who do you favor in this game?
Well, you have to take into account it is being played at Oklahoma State, so the Cowboys do come into this one with home field advantage. The Cowboys have been playing some excellent defense of late. In 3 out of their last 4 games, I believe they've held their opponents to 3 points or less, which is impressive no matter who you're playing. So they're playing some very good defense. They like to run the ball. They're started looking like a very, what you would think of when, I might say, a very good Wisconsin team. You play sound defense and you run the ball and you wear your opponent out. That's what Oklahoma State is looking at like right now. And I might favor them to win this game because of their defense, their defensive play. I think they could probably get to Caleb Williams, get him rattled a little bit. And I'm thinking the Cowboys actually break a rather long streak of victories by the Sooners in Bedlam today.
Yeah. I would take Oklahoma State in that one. We'll take the snoozer of the three, and I'll go ahead and talk about that one, and then I'll leave you to talk about the game briefly because I know it's about to start. So Bo Nix is out. However, here's what kind of scares me. TJ Finley is the backup. He came in relief last week and had 463 yards and 3 touchdowns, no picks. That doesn't make me feel good. We're going to their home to play against them, and their quarterback doesn't look bad. That scares me. The other thing that scares me is we are playing in Auburn. So let's talk about just 2 years ago. Do you remember they beat Mac Jones' Alabama team?
Yeah, no, that was another thing that kept you out of the playoff in 2019.
Because he threw 2 picks that year, and they beat us 48-45. And honestly, that Auburn team wasn't good. So there's that. Then we can always talk about the kick 6, which happened at Auburn in 2013. Like, it just, I don't like it. We need help. We need help to get past this game. And it's not because we're not good. It's just this game is rat poison, in Nick Saban's own words. Mm-hmm. I am looking forward. I hate it, but Bryce Young has got to step up for us again in this game to get us past it. We did win last year, but it was at home. So, let's see what happens. I'm looking for Will Anderson to step up and help us out. He has 13.5 sacks. He's leading the nation with that and 27.5 tackles for loss. The scariest thing for me would probably be Auburn's Zacoby McClain. The last time we visited Auburn, he took back one of Mac Jones' interceptions, 100 yards for a touchdown. So he has the experience. He knows how to play Alabama. That makes me a little nervous. And then I guess the only other thing that's probably going to change the game in our favor, we need Jameson Williams to show up. We need him to get open. We need to get the ball to him. He is a speedster through and through. I thought Mechie was going to be the big guy, but he's just not as fast as you'd like. So I'm going to take Alabama, not because I'm biased. I think we're going to find a way to win. It is a different team after the A&M game. Not the team that I expected to be right here, but I think if we put a convincing dub on Auburn, that makes me feel better against Georgia next week.
Yeah, no, I'm thinking Alabama will probably walk away from this one. And now, really, the marquee game of the day, at least if you look at the rankings, the game in Ann Arbor, Ohio State, Michigan. Ohio State comes into this game with potentially the number 1 offense in the country, if not the number 1 passing offense in the country. Michigan is going to have to deal with the 3-headed monster, Earth, Wind, and Fire of Jackson Smith and Jigba, Garrett Wilson, and Chris Olave. It's amazing because Chris Olave might be the least athletic of the group, but he just broke in the last game against Michigan State, David Boston's school record at Ohio State of 34 touchdowns receiving. So that's just incredible. And the fact that he's not even the most athletic of the 3 is scary. CJ Stroud, right now, Heisman front runner, is looking like he's putting his receivers, he's dotting up his receivers very, very well. And then you have the freshman star running back, Travion Henderson. You're probably going to be hearing his name a lot, if not in the playoffs this year. You're going to be certainly hearing it a lot in maybe down the line next year. So Ohio State's offense is definitely the juggernaut coming into this game. And then their defense has also been much improved over the course of the season since they lost to Oregon. Michigan comes into this game with probably one of a pair of the two best pass rushers in the in FBS right now in Aiden Hutchinson and David Ojabo. Having those two screaming off the edge is going to be a test for Ohio State's pass protection and offensive line.
Oh my, they have 10 sacks together.
Yes, no, the dudes are scary. I think I'm basically thinking, you have two mini Bosa brothers coming around the edge. So it is scary. And so they have had very good pass defense because of those two. They've kind of been soft on the run. You saw that when they played Michigan State and lost to them, and Kenneth Walker ran wild on them. So that's potentially a way that Ohio State could exploit. If you're Michigan, you have to hope that David Ojabo and Aiden Hutchinson can get pressure on C.J. Stroud, cause him to not feel comfortable, and then be able to run the ball and score 7s more than 3s and keep the game within one possession at all costs. Because if you fall behind, it forces you into the air. It forces you to be one-dimensional, and that is a death knell.
Yep.
So you have to play with two safeties back. You have to make sure that the three-headed monster does not get the best of you, and you have to put pressure on C.J. Stroud. If Ohio State can find a way to keep that Michigan D-line honest, I think it's going to be a very long day for the Wolverines. I like Ohio State in this game by anywhere between 10 to 17, potentially 21 points. I think the final score would be something like Ohio State 35, Michigan 17.
I'm not sold yet. Here's why. I actually like a Michigan quarterback for the first time in a long time. Cade McNamara is not bad. He has thrown one interception, I think, far to Michigan State. And then since then, he has heaved 7 touchdowns and no mistakes. I think that is not a small feat, especially playing for the team that you play for. You're going to need your corners to show up, I think, in this game. I don't think they're going to run all over you. I think they're going to go for the air, which is rare for a Michigan team, especially against Ohio State that has a good defense. It's going to come down to which offense can hang around longer. It is.
Yes.
Because this is not an old Michigan team that just has a good defense and can't figure out what to do with the ball when they have it in their hands.
They have a very good running attack, one of the best running attacks in the Big Ten this year.
It's only like a 6.5 point spread. So I don't know who I want to take, but I don't think it's going to be a walk in and stomp them by like 40. I don't think that's going to happen. But stranger things have happened. It's a snow game. That's already one weird factor that's going to play in. But they're all northern kids. They all know how to play in the snow. But I'm curious to know if that's going to mess with running the ball, passing the ball, how that's going to stop offenses. But, yeah, so those are the 3 games to be watching. I know the game's on, so I'm trying to wrap this up really quick for him. We will talk to you guys later. Enjoy rivalry week. Rivalry week. Comment with your rivalry that is your favorite that may have been played earlier in the season. I know not everybody plays in rivalry week. And have a good weekend.
All right.
Bye, guys.
Go Bucks. OH.
Roll Tide.